Something strange is happening in America. The people who were told to work hard, buy a modest home, raise a family, save a little, and retire with dignity are now watching that promise slip away in silence. This video is not about panic. It is about the quiet math under everyday life. Wages, rent, debt, healthcare, childcare, food, cars, housing, and retirement. By the end, you will see why the middle class feels smaller, why some official numbers can sound fine while families feel trapped, and what signs to watch before the squeeze reaches your own front door. For decades, the American middle class was sold as the center of national life. Not rich, not poor, stable, respectable, able to absorb a broken water heater, a job loss, or a medical bill without falling apart. That middle did not disappear in one dramatic crash. It thinned out slowly, like air leaking from a tire. One month the grocery bill rises, another month insurance jumps, then rent renews, then a child needs care. The danger is not that every family is collapsing. The danger is that stability now requires perfect timing, perfect health, and perfect paperwork. The first uncomfortable truth is this: the middle class is not only shrinking because people are falling down, some have moved up, but the center itself has lost power, security, and breathing room. In 1971, about 61% of Americans lived in middle-income households. By 2023, that share had fallen to about 51%. That is not a tiny cultural mood. That is a structural change. Over the same long period, the lower-income share rose from about 27% to about 30%, while the upper-income share rose from about 11% to about 19%. That detail matters because it complicates the story. America did create more upper-income households, but it also created a society where the middle is less protected, less dominant, and easier to fall out of. That is why the story feels personal, even when the causes are national. People blame their own budget before they question the rules around the budget. The middle class used to be the largest room in the house. Now the walls have moved. More people are standing near the edges, looking stable on paper and fragile in real life. Here is the part people feel before they can explain it. A household can earn more than its parents did and still have less freedom, because the price of stability has climbed faster than the feeling of success. A paycheck is not the same as a life. A salary can look respectable until housing, transportation, healthcare, childcare, student loans, insurance, taxes, and groceries start taking turns at the table. The middle class used to be defined by what it could do: buy a home, raise children, own a car, take a vacation, handle an emergency, retire someday. Now each piece has become a separate battle, and once a household loses the first cushion, every later decision becomes more defensive, more careful, and more expensive. The disappearance is quiet because many families still look normal from the outside. They have jobs, phones, cars, decent clothes, and maybe a house. But underneath, the cushion is gone. That is the new middle-class anxiety. Not absolute poverty, not visible collapse. A slow conversion of comfort into performance, where people look okay because looking okay has become part of survival. The second reason is housing. Housing is not just another bill. It is the gatekeeper for neighborhoods, schools, safety, commute time, family formation, and wealth building. When home prices rise, current owners may feel richer, but younger families, renters, and anyone trying to restart after a divorce, job loss, or medical event face a much taller wall. The median sales price for houses sold in the United States was a little over $400,000 in early 2026. That number alone changes the meaning of a middle income. A house at that price is not just a price tag. It is a down payment, closing costs, inspections, insurance, property taxes, maintenance, higher interest, and the risk of one repair becoming a financial event. This is not nostalgia for a perfect past. It is a warning that basic security has become harder to buy with ordinary work. Older homeowners often bought into a different world. Lower prices, different interest rates, and more room for wages to catch up. Younger buyers are entering after the ladder has been pulled higher. This is why the middle class can feel like a club with grandfathered members. People already inside may be struggling, but people outside are paying an entrance fee their parents never faced. Renters are not spared. When rent rises, it does not build equity, it simply eats future savings. Every rent increase can become a delayed down payment, delayed child, delayed business, or delayed retirement. The hard part is that housing pain hides inside personal choices. People blame themselves for not saving enough, but the real issue is that shelter has absorbed too much of the ordinary paycheck. Average household spending in 2024 showed housing and transportation taking more than half of total expenditures. That means the basics are not acting basic anymore. They are acting like luxury tolls. Housing averaged more than $26,000 a year, and transportation averaged more than $13,000 a year. Before dreams begin, the commute and the roof have already made claims. That is not a lifestyle problem. It is the cost of participating in the economy. Many jobs require a car, many decent schools require expensive housing, many cheaper homes require longer drives. The third reason is debt. Debt used to be a bridge. Now, for many families, it is the floor they stand on. The danger is that a floor made of debt can crack when income shakes. Total household debt reached about $18.8 trillion in the first quarter of 2026. That includes mortgages, credit cards, auto loans, student loans, and other obligations. Some debt builds wealth, like a manageable mortgage on a home that appreciates. But some debt simply allows people to keep living at today's prices while tomorrow's paycheck is already spoken for. Credit cards are the clearest warning signal. They can be useful tools. But when groceries, utilities, or medical bills start riding on revolving balances, the middle class is borrowing to appear normal. Credit card balances stood around $1.25 trillion in early 2026. That is not just shopping. It is a national mirror showing how many people need plastic to smooth the month. Auto loans matter too. A car is often required for work, especially outside dense cities. But vehicles have become rolling obligations: payment, fuel, repairs, registration, insurance, parking, and surprise maintenance. When the car breaks, the job is at risk. When the job is at risk, the loan is at risk. That is how one mechanical problem can become a household crisis. The renter may be disciplined, educated, and employed, yet still watch another year of payments leave no lasting asset behind. Student debt adds another layer. Education is still one of the main paths to higher income, but the path now often begins with a bill before the first serious paycheck arrives. The old bargain said education buys mobility. The new bargain says education may buy access, but access can come with a monthly charge that follows people into marriage, parenthood, and home buying. This is why debt is controversial. Some people see it as bad personal discipline. Others see it as the price of admission to housing, transportation, education, and medical survival. The truth is sharper. Debt becomes dangerous when basic life requires it. A middle-class society should not need millions of families to finance ordinary stability at high interest. This is why the phrase "house poor" keeps returning. A family can own the dream and still have no cash left to breathe inside it. The fourth reason is healthcare. In America, getting sick is not only a medical event, it can become a financial event, an employment event, a credit event, and a housing event. Employer health coverage sounds safe until workers see premiums, deductibles, copays, excluded services, narrow networks, and surprise timing. Insurance lowers risk, but it does not remove fear. The cruel twist is that transportation often rises when housing is cheaper because distance becomes the bill that replaces rent. The average annual premium for employer-sponsored family health coverage was just under $27,000 in 2025. Employers pay much of it, but workers still feel the weight through wages and contributions. That hidden cost matters. If compensation is swallowed by healthcare, a worker may technically earn more while still taking home less freedom. The raise arrives, but the system takes a cut first. For families with children, the fear is even stronger. A single diagnosis can rearrange work schedules, savings plans, credit balances, and every quiet hope for a normal year. Middle-class families are often too high income for the most help and too low wealth to be safe. They are expected to absorb costs because they look responsible on paper. That is the cruel zone. You do not qualify as poor, but you are not rich enough to be careless. You are responsible enough to be billed and fragile enough to be damaged. The fifth reason is childcare. Childcare is where the middle class discovers that two incomes do not automatically mean comfort. Sometimes the second income is partly working to pay for the care required to work. Federal child care data show families can spend a major share of median income on full-day care for just one child. In some places, care costs resemble another rent payment. Annual full-day care prices for one child ranged from more than $6,000 to more than $15,000 in the most recent federal county data. That is before multiple children. Debt also changes behavior. People stop choosing what is best and start choosing what clears the next payment without immediate damage. This changes family decisions. People delay having children, have fewer children, lean on grandparents, reduce hours, switch shifts, or leave the workforce entirely because care is too expensive. The public debate often treats childcare as private family planning, but it is also economic infrastructure. If parents cannot work because care costs too much, the labor market loses talent. The middle class once relied on one steady income or two manageable incomes. Now, many families need two incomes just to qualify for the life one income once carried. That creates a trap. Two incomes are necessary, but two incomes require childcare, commuting, work clothes, more prepared food, more scheduling pressure, and less unpaid time to solve household problems. The sixth reason is that wages can rise while security falls. This sounds impossible until you separate income from stability. A bigger paycheck does not protect you if every fixed cost rises with it. Real median household income in 2024 was about $83,700 and was not statistically different from the previous year or from pre-pandemic 2019. That means many households heard good news about employment, but did not feel a major jump in real living power. The economy can be growing while the kitchen table feels stuck. The middle-class worker is told to upgrade skills, switch jobs, negotiate, move, save, invest, and stay flexible. But flexibility often means carrying risks that institutions use to carry. More jobs are project-based, contract-based, schedule-shifting, benefit-thin, or vulnerable to sudden restructuring. Even workers with good jobs know the ground can move quickly. The old middle-class promise was not simply wages, it was predictability. A person could plan because tomorrow looked connected to today. That connection is weaker now. When people cannot predict rent, insurance, childcare, interest rates, layoffs, or medical costs, they stop making long plans. They rent longer. They delay children. They postpone repairs. They avoid risk. A society can look busy and still be anxious. Restaurants may be full while credit balances rise. Airports may be crowded while retirement accounts lag. Spending does not always mean confidence. Interest turns time against the borrower. The longer the pressure lasts, the more yesterday's shortage steals from tomorrow's options. The seventh reason is inflation, but not in the lazy way people argue about it. The problem is not just 1 year of rising prices, it is the stacking effect. A grocery increase does not replace a rent increase, it joins it. An insurance increase does not replace a car repair, it joins it. Middle-class pressure accumulates like layers of paint. Healthcare fear is powerful because people cannot shop for illness the way they shop for shoes. Urgency destroys bargaining power. Consumer prices were still rising in 2026, and price increases remained one of the most common financial concerns reported by adults in national surveys. Even when inflation slows, prices usually do not return to the old level. Families hear that inflation is cooling, but their receipt still shows the new reality. That difference creates distrust. Economists talk about rates of change. Households talk about totals. One side says the fire is spreading slower. The other says the room is still hot. Food is especially emotional because it is repeated. A house price shocks you when you shop. A grocery bill reminds you every week that yesterday's normal is gone. Shrinkflation adds to the anger. A package can look familiar while holding less. The price may not scream. The size whispers. Families notice because they are the ones trying to stretch it. Fees do the same thing. Delivery fees, service fees, processing fees, convenience fees, activation fees, late fees, and subscription renewals turn the advertised price into a starting point, not the final cost. That is one reason people feel manipulated. The listed price is calm, the checkout page is not. Modern life has learned to hide the true total until the last step. The eighth reason is the subscription economy. A household used to buy many things once. Now it rents access to software, entertainment, storage, security, delivery, fitness, and even basic convenience. Each subscription looks small alone. The trap is that small recurring charges are designed to be forgettable. The middle class is not destroyed by one subscription. It is drained by accumulation. A small fee is not small when it repeats across every part of life. The modern bill is often a swarm, not a single bite. This is not about blaming families for streaming or apps. It is about noticing that businesses prefer predictable monthly revenue and households become the predictable monthly source. The quiet trick is that recurring payments lower the pain of buying while raising the cost of living. You do not feel the full price at the start. You feel it forever. Buy now, pay later plans work in a similar way. They split pain into smaller pieces. That can help in a pinch, but it can also make the monthly budget harder to read. The central bank found that use of buy now, pay later rose in recent household surveys, and late payments among users became more common. That is a warning sign. When families need installments for ordinary purchases, the issue is not only shopping culture. It may be income timing, cost pressure, weak savings, or the loss of a real cushion. The ninth reason is retirement insecurity. The middle class used to believe work would end with a paid-off home, a pension, savings, and public benefits. That picture has faded. Only about 35% of non-retired adults recently said their retirement saving was on track. That means most workers either know they are behind or are unsure. This matters because retirement anxiety changes life long before retirement. People stay in jobs they hate, avoid entrepreneurship, delay medical care, and support adult children while fearing their own old age. Pensions once gave many workers predictable income. Now retirement depends more heavily on personal savings, market returns, employer plans, contribution choices, fees, and whether a person could afford to start early. That system rewards steady careers and spare cash. But the middle-class squeeze interrupts both. If childcare, rent, medical bills, or debt eat the margin, retirement contributions become optional. Optional is dangerous. The future does not stop coming because the present is expensive. Every year without savings turns time from an ally into an enemy. The 10th reason is the asset divide. Income helps you live. Assets help you survive, borrow, invest, and recover. A family that owns a home can gain equity while sleeping. A renter can work just as hard and still wake up with no ownership in the roof they paid for. A family with stocks benefits when markets rise. A family with no investments watches the news celebrate gains they do not share. The same economy feels generous to one household and cold to another. Wealth inequality is not only yachts and mansions, it is who can help a child with a down payment, who can survive unemployment, and who can say no to a bad job. The richest families hold a large share of national wealth, while the bottom half holds a small slice. That gap shapes choices before people even make their own mistakes. The most controversial part is that the modern economy often pays owners more quietly than it pays workers. Labor is taxed by time. Ownership compounds while people sleep. This does not mean work is useless. It means work alone is less able to buy the full middle-class package unless it connects to ownership, benefits, and long-term savings. That is why two families with similar incomes can live different lives. One has inherited help, home equity, no student debt, and family childcare. The other has rent, loans, and no backup. The 11th reason is geographic sorting. The middle class is not disappearing evenly. It is being pushed around the map by housing costs, job clusters, taxes, schools, and remote work. High-opportunity areas often have high housing costs. Low-cost areas may have fewer high-paying jobs. The middle-class dream now asks people to choose between opportunity and affordability. A lower rent can come with a longer commute. A higher wage can come with a higher apartment. A better school district can come with a mortgage that eats the raise. This creates a cruel equation. Move to where jobs are and costs rise. Move to where costs are lower and opportunity may shrink. Stay near family and the budget may suffer. For many households, geography has become destiny again, not because people lack ambition, but because the cost of moving into opportunity has risen. The 12th reason is education pressure. A college degree can still raise lifetime earnings, but the route is more uncertain, more expensive, and more emotionally loaded. Families are told education is the bridge to the middle class. Then they are handed tuition, housing costs, books, fees, transportation, loan forms, and a job market that changes quickly. The strange twist is that public tuition prices have not always risen faster than inflation in recent years, but total college life still includes housing, food, transportation, and lost work time. Parents feel trapped. Skip college, and the child may face lower earnings. Choose college, and the family may face debt or savings depletion. The bridge has a toll booth. The degree also no longer guarantees the same status. Some graduates do well. Others enter crowded fields, high-rent cities, and debt-heavy adulthood. The promise is still real, but less simple. The 13th reason is insurance. Insurance is supposed to protect the middle class. But premiums, deductibles, exclusions, and rising risk have turned protection into another pressure point. Car insurance, home insurance, renter's insurance, health insurance, life insurance, and warranties all compete for the same paycheck. Each is rational. Together, they can feel suffocating. Climate risk, repair costs, medical costs, vehicle prices, and litigation all push premiums upward in different ways. Families do not need to understand the whole system to feel the bill. When insurance gets expensive, people raise deductibles or reduce coverage. That lowers the monthly pain but increases the danger of the next emergency. This is how the middle class becomes self-insured by accident. The family technically has coverage, but the out-of-pocket exposure is still large enough to wreck the month. The 14th reason is the emergency fund gap. A middle-class life is not proven by income. It is proven by what happens when something goes wrong. Recent central bank surveys found that about 63% of adults could cover a $400 emergency with cash or its equivalent. That means a large minority could not do so cleanly. And $400 is not a dramatic emergency anymore. It may be a tire, a copay, a utility catch-up, a school expense, or part of a minor repair. The scary part is not only the expense, it is the chain reaction. One shortfall becomes a late fee becomes interest. Interest becomes stress. Stress becomes worse decisions. The middle class used to have a buffer. Today, many households have a choreography. They time bills, move money, delay care, wait for payday, and hope nothing lands early. That kind of life is exhausting because it demands constant calculation. The family may not be poor, but it is always managing the risk of becoming poor. The 15th reason is that social status became more expensive. A normal life now comes with silent expectations. Birthday parties, school supplies, phones, internet, decent clothes, activities, and safe transportation. None of these things are extravagant alone, but together they create a minimum standard of belonging. Parents feel it hardest because children notice exclusion before adults can explain budgets. Internet access is no longer a luxury. It is homework, job applications, banking, healthcare portals, and basic communication. A phone is not a toy when every institution sends codes and updates. This is why older comparisons fail. People say families used to live with less. True, but many old savings came from not needing services that modern life now requires. A household without reliable internet, a working phone, a safe car, and flexible payment tools is not simply frugal. It can be locked out of opportunity. The 16th reason is that the tax and benefit cliffs can punish progress. Some families earn too much for help, then not enough to replace what help would have covered. A raise can reduce eligibility for food support, childcare support, healthcare subsidies, or housing assistance. The paycheck rises, but the household can still feel no richer. This is one of the least understood pressures in America. People are told to climb, but some steps on the ladder are sticky. Moving up can trigger new bills. Middle-class families above the cutoff often feel invisible. They pay full price for systems that wealthier families absorb, and lower-income families may receive help navigating. That does not mean assistance is bad. It means the transition zone is brutal. The country has not built a smooth bridge from struggling to stable. Assets give households patience. Without assets, every problem demands an immediate answer, and immediate answers are usually expensive. The 17th reason is work-life exhaustion. The middle class is not only losing money, it is losing time. Time is the hidden currency of stability. If you have money, you can buy convenience. If you lack money but have time, you can cook, repair, compare prices, negotiate bills, and care for family. Many households lack both. Long commutes, second jobs, side work, childcare runs, elder care, and unpredictable schedules turn adults into logistics managers. They are not lazy, they are overloaded. This overload has economic consequences. Tired people miss paperwork, pay fees, accept worse terms, skip preventive care, and make short-term choices because long-term planning takes energy. The 18th reason is that emergencies are more privatized. A family medical issue, a parent needing care, a child needing support, or a local disaster now lands heavily on household budgets. Public systems exist, but they can be confusing, slow, limited, or tied to strict eligibility. Middle-class families often discover help only after they have already spent savings. Elder care is one of the biggest silent pressures. Many adults are supporting children and aging parents while trying to save for their own retirement. That sandwich pressure can erase the neat life plan. You may do everything right, then one parent falls, one child needs help, and the budget becomes a rescue mission. The 19th reason is that the language of success hides fragility. People say they are blessed, busy, grinding, building, or investing in themselves. Many are simply trying not to fall. Social media makes this worse. It displays vacations, kitchens, cars, outfits, and celebrations without showing debt, family help, promotional discounts, or the unpaid stress behind the photo. Geography can make two identical salaries feel like two different social classes. The paycheck is national, but the bill is local. The middle class has always cared about respectability. Today, respectability is more visible and more expensive. Looking stable can become another cost of being considered stable. The 20th reason is political confusion. Everyone claims to defend the middle class, but the term means different things to different people. For one person, middle class means a factory job, a pension, and a modest home. For another, it means a college degree, professional work, and private childcare. For another, it means not needing help. Because the definition is emotional, politicians can praise the middle class without agreeing on housing supply, wages, healthcare costs, childcare, taxes, debt, or retirement security. That confusion helps the squeeze continue. A vague promise is easier than a concrete repair. The middle class becomes a slogan while families handle the invoices. The 21st reason is that productivity and dignity separated. Workers can help create enormous value without feeling that value return as security. A company can grow, shareholders can gain, executives can be rewarded, and ordinary workers can still face higher premiums, tighter schedules, or uncertain hours. This does not require a villain in every room. It is often the result of incentives. Capital seeks returns. Firms manage costs. Workers need stability. Those goals collide. The middle class was strongest when the collision was softened by bargaining power, affordable housing, predictable benefits, public investment, and broad access to ownership. When those buffers weaken, the worker stands closer to the market storm. A person can be employed and still feel exposed. The 22nd reason is the rise of hidden price discrimination. Two people can buy the same service and pay different totals depending on timing, location, fees, loyalty, credit, or urgency. When you are rushed, you pay more. When you are poor, you may pay more. When you cannot buy in bulk, wait for sales, repair early, or comparison shop, you pay more. This is the poverty tax creeping into the middle class. Not always because a company is evil, but because the system rewards flexibility and punishes desperation. The person with savings can replace tires before they fail. The person without savings waits until failure, misses work, pays for towing, and accepts whatever price is available. The 23rd reason is credit scoring. Credit can open doors, but it can also turn past struggle into future expense. A lower score can mean higher interest, higher deposits, worse loan terms, and sometimes fewer housing options. That means a financial bruise can keep hurting after the original wound heals. Middle-class life increasingly requires a clean financial record. But the same costs that make the record hard to keep also make the record more important. The 24th reason is delayed adulthood. People are not delaying milestones only because they are selfish or picky. Many are reacting rationally to the cost of commitment. Marriage, children, home buying, and business formation all require confidence. If rent is unstable, debt is heavy, and childcare is expensive, confidence becomes a luxury. A society should worry when responsible people postpone normal dreams because the math does not work. That is not moral decline. That is economic feedback. The 25th reason is that the middle class now needs financial literacy just to survive traps that should not be so complicated. People must understand interest rates, tax withholding, health plans, deductibles, credit scores, retirement matches, loan terms, subscription renewals, college aid, insurance exclusions, and mortgage points. Knowledge helps, but complexity itself is a cost. A healthy middle-class system should not require every family to become a part-time accountant, lawyer, and benefits specialist. When people make mistakes, the blame comes fast. But many products are designed so the mistake is easy, profitable, and quiet. The 26th reason is that cheap goods hide expensive life. Some items cost less than they did in the past, especially electronics and imported goods. That creates the illusion that life is easier. But cheaper screens do not cancel expensive rent. Cheap clothes do not cancel healthcare. Discount furniture does not cancel childcare. The shopping cart is not the whole economy. This is why debates become messy. One person points to low-cost consumer goods, another points to housing and medicine. Both can be telling the truth, but only one explains stability. The 27th reason is that the middle class is carrying more risk inside the family. If a young adult cannot afford rent, parents help. If parents cannot retire, adult children worry. Family support is beautiful, but it can also hide national weakness. When families privately solve public affordability problems, the crisis becomes less visible. A parent helping with rent may be delaying retirement. A grandparent providing childcare may be protecting a household budget. A sibling loan may be replacing a bank. The household looks stable because another household is quietly absorbing the shock. That is not disappearance on paper, but it is disappearance in spirit. The 28th reason is distrust. Families hear that the economy is strong, but their own lives feel tight. This gap creates anger, conspiracy thinking, and political volatility. Sometimes the official data is correct and the household pain is also correct. National averages can improve while specific costs crush specific families. Averages hide timing. They hide renters versus owners, parents versus non-parents, healthy versus sick, debt-free versus indebted, and cities where opportunity costs too much. The middle class is not one person. It is millions of different balance sheets. That is why a single headline can never capture the whole pressure. The 29th reason is that moving up now often requires winning several games at once. You need income, location, timing, health, credit, education, family support, and asset growth. Miss one piece, and progress slows. Miss several, and a good salary becomes survival with nicer furniture. This is why the old advice feels incomplete. Work hard, spend less, save more, invest early. Good advice, yes, but it does not answer unaffordable housing, medical risk, or childcare costs. Personal discipline matters, but discipline cannot single-handedly repair a market where basic stability has become too expensive for ordinary earners. The 30th reason is that the American dream shifted from a broad road to a narrow bridge. People still cross it, but the fall feels closer. The middle class is quietly disappearing because the cost of being secure has risen, while the institutions that once spread risk have weakened. It is disappearing because income without assets is fragile, because debt fills gaps, because emergencies are expensive, and because families are expected to solve national problems one bill at a time. It is disappearing because a person can be employed, educated, insured, and exhausted, yet still feel one bad month away from losing years of progress. And the most controversial truth is this: many families are not failing the middle class. The middle class is failing to provide what it once promised. So what should viewers watch? Watch housing costs compared with income. Watch debt used for basics. Watch insurance increases. Watch childcare. Watch retirement savings. Watch emergency funds. Also watch who owns assets and who only rents access. In the new economy, ownership is the difference between being pushed by prices and being lifted by them. The solution is not one magic policy or one personal habit. It is a combination: more affordable housing, better wage power, lower medical exposure, sane child care costs, smarter debt, and broader ownership. At the household level, the warning signs are simple. If every raise disappears, if every emergency becomes debt, if retirement is always postponed, and if normal life requires constant financing, the squeeze is real. At the national level, the warning sign is even simpler. When millions of responsible people cannot afford a responsible life, the problem is larger than individual choices. The middle class was never just an income bracket. It was a promise of stability for people who worked, planned, and contributed. That promise is now under review. The story is not hopeless. But honesty has to come before repair. A country cannot rebuild the middle if it keeps pretending the center is fine. The biggest takeaway is this. The middle class is not vanishing in a single dramatic collapse. It is being converted into a high-cost, low-cushion lifestyle that still looks normal from the street. Housing sets the trap. Debt keeps people moving. Healthcare and childcare tighten the walls. Inflation stacks the pressure. Asset ownership decides who escapes and who stays exposed. If this made you rethink what middle class really means, like the video, share it with someone who feels the squeeze, and comment this question: what cost has changed your life the most?